Hi everyone! There are scholars that call for provision of a fixed cash grant to every resident as another way of promoting progressivity. This is the classic form of negative income tax and is often called basic income. Some European countries have such programs on a relatively small scale. Let's see how this works. If the government imposes 30% fixed marginal tax rate and provides a cash or in-kind fixed annual grant of $9,000 to each and every taxpayer, the tax rate schedule is the following. A resident with zero income receives an annual transfer of $9,000. A resident with income of $10,000 pays 30% income tax, that is $3,000, but receives a grant of $9,000. Hence, his net transfer to the government is a negative income tax, that is a transfer from the government to him of $6,000. $6,000 out of $10,000 income is 60%. It is a negative tax rate because the government pays it to the taxpayer. A resident with income of $20,000 pays 30% income tax, that is $6,000, but receives a cash grant of $9,000. Hence, his net transfer to the government is negative income tax of $3,000. $3,000 out of $20,000 income is 15%. It is a negative tax rate because the government pays it to the taxpayer. In the fourth row, the resident has an income of $30,000. He pays 30% income tax, that is $9,000, and receives a grant of $9,000. Hence his net transfer to the government is zero. The marginal tax rate is 30%. In the fifth row, the resident has an income of $50,000. He pays 30% income tax, that is $15,000, but receives a grant of $9,000. His effective tax rate is $6,000 out of $50,000 of income he had, that is 12%. The marginal tax rate is 30%. And in the sixth row, the resident has an income of $100,000. He pays 30% income tax, that is $30,000, but receives a grant of $9,000. His effective tax rate is $21,000 out of his $100,000 of income, that is 21%. The marginal tax rate is 30%. And in the last row, the resident has an income of $1 million. He pays 30% income tax, that is $300,000, receives a grant of $9,000. His effective tax rate is $291,000 out of $1 million of income, that is 29.1%. The marginal tax rate is 30%. We see that this is a progressive tax and transfer schedule because the effective tax rate goes up with income. As I mentioned earlier, we see this type of program only rarely in some European countries. But as a matter of fact, we do have negative income tax in all countries, once we realize that we can view public goods as a form of a grant paid by the government to each and every resident, as all residents benefit from the public goods, no matter how much tax they paid. Even if someone doesn't pay tax and doesn't get any transfer, he still enjoys security, the law system, the education system, etc. This worth money. The grant, in our example, is the cost of all public goods provided by the government, divided by the number of residents. We assume that residents benefit from public goods to the same extent. Hence, it is equivalent to a fixed cash grant that everyone receives. Clearly, some derive greater benefit than others from a specific public good. but they may derive less benefit from another public good, so that in general it is supposed to balance. In the next class, we're going to see how welfare programs that we see in most countries and that seem to make perfect sense impose very high marginal tax rate on low-income people. Then, we're going to rely on all you have learned in this course and see how to design the optimal tax and transfer system. As you know, by optimal, we mean maximizing the social welfare function, as this would maximize individuals' well-being, namely happiness.